Hi everyone, it's Manda here and welcome. It's so nice to see so many amazing faces and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to the amazing Anna Feldman from Australia, who's a director in CFX, who's joined the call today. And just to really honour the call and Anna and her knowledge, it'd be beautiful if everyone could turn your videos on, unless you're in the toilet or driving. And it'd just be nice to see everyone's face. And it's kind of weird when you show up and imagine if we didn't have our videos on. And then we call it a podcast. So yeah, videos on, and if you can just mute yourselves for now, and then we'll go into a Q&A at the end. But Anna, welcome to the call, and it's so great to see you here. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone and tell everyone who you are and how you found CFX?
Thank you so much. It's so special to be here with you all. It's like I had a little bit of a blip and I didn't really kind of put all of the bits together and realize that I'm coming into this amazing collective that I love so much. There are so many people here who I have a love for. It's not just an honor to be here. It feels like I'm with soul family in this space. So I want to really thank you for that. And I want to really underscore that while I'm on that kind of tangent. I do feel like more than ever, Yep, there we go. Got the gag off. What we're really yearning for, I was just saying, more than anything, even more than prosperity, even more than financial freedom, is connection, and connection with like-minded, I call it soul family. And in a world where we're becoming more and more isolated in many ways, particularly here in Australia, many of you would know that we are in lockdown. Most of Australia is in lockdown. It's this perpetual ongoing thing now. And it feels like coming back to a CFX call on any level is like, oh, I'm with soul family. I feel like I'm connected. I feel like there's a part of me that is being nourished right now that is more important than what I initially came into CFX for, which was prosperity and financial freedom. Now it's become community and connection and depth of conversation and being able to be my true self. So my true self, well, we are all just divine, aren't we? You've got Hazel as your mentor, so you've already been fully downloaded and channeled as to who you really are. So I don't need to speak too much into that we are divine beings of light. And yes, we are spirits having this human experience and we're in this soup together. But my lineage comes from, way back I was born in the former USSR. I was born in the Soviet Union in Ukraine, but I was born as a Russian Jew. So my lineage is Jewish, and we escaped as refugees, as political refugees, in a sense, religious refugees, back in 76. And we moved through Vienna and to Italy, and then we were absorbed after a year into a very small Jewish community, yes, in New Zealand, in Wellington, in the butt nowhere, like the southern tip of the world. Some people who are from Australia will be very familiar with Wellington, New Zealand, windy Wellington. But why I bring that forth is because, I have a heart or an embodied understanding of what it is to, be a refugee and, seeking sort of safety and asylum and working through those layers of safety to then be on a spiritual journey. Like, oh, wow, there's more than just security and safety. There's actually now this spiritual life that we're all here to experience, to really become ourselves fully, to express ourselves fully. And I had this sense of that from a very, very young age, like there's more. And like many of us here who are soul seekers, have been on a personal development journey, my life took those turns and I followed those breadcrumbs and ended up becoming a yoga teacher, actually. And I really developed myself as a yoga teacher in Sydney for 14, 15 years. And it wasn't so much that I loved the yoga poses as much as I loved, again, the community, the inquiry, the openness, and the ability for me to explore who am I with autoimmune. So in my 20s, I developed a cosmetic autoimmune condition called vitiligo. And it's such an interesting time to develop something on your skin. In my early 20s, it was all about, being visible and, wanting to get out there amongst the crowd and belong and feel like this kind of beautiful free spirit finally, after overcoming lots and lots of childhood trauma. And yet there on my skin was appearing this depigmentation from head to toe everywhere. And it really set me on a path of, where do I derive my radiance, my presence from, and really starting to ask those big questions around what holds me back, my voice back, presencing myself, taking up space. And so this journey took me on a journey to become a coach. I sort of fell into coaching through executive coaching first, working with executives all around the world. I was poached by one of my yoga students to travel around the whole world, business class, stay in the finest hotels when we could travel and do all of those fabulous things. I was really experiencing this incredible lifestyle. But it's funny, I was wearing so much makeup and doing all the things and wearing the heels. I was once again going, well, this is great, but I'm still hiding behind, really who I truly am here to be, which is a speaker for those that haven't yet found their voice, yearning to speak their truth, to really come forwards and bring forth their potential. Like, you feel like there's this potential within you, but it's unrealized. And so for the last few years, I've been working strongly, solidly with women, particularly entrepreneurial women. I've fallen into the online business space because we left the big smoke of Sydney about 6 years ago. My husband, Asha, and our one son, Kiba, who's now 9. Kiba was about 2.5 when we just, ripped the Band-Aid off and went, right, we've got to do this. It's sort of now or never. And we moved to a beautiful country town in sort of mid-north coast New South Wales called Bellingen. Some of you might be familiar with beautiful Bello. Do you know it, Jill? Yeah. Jill's nodding. Yeah, it's just a special little part of the world, really. We're actually now at Sapphire Beach, so we've gone from tree change to sea change. But the point that I wanted to make was, I really have I sense things before they come, as many of us do, and I had sensed this yearning to be more online and to find new ways to nourish this part of me that wants to remain connected with my global community and not diminish myself to a small community. So online has been a powerful place for me to play with visibility and voice and help so many other women and people in general to step forwards with their visibility as well. Manda, maybe that's how you know me, is through the online space. So what's so beautiful is how many amazing, deep, wonderful, authentic connections we've all made. Susie and Des, they've just recently stayed at my place, and the love is real. It's online, but the love is real. So whilst being on this online journey, online business has been a big passion of mine as a way to express myself fully and see that prosperity is often a mirror, of who we are being. And I've really loved playing with those dynamics. And network marketing has always been a part of my ecosystem, as long as I remember, as long as I've been sort of from the age of about 20-ish, I've been playing in that space. And I've created a lot of success in that space. I'm a great network marketer because I love people. I don't love selling per se. I love sharing great ideas, and I love promoting amazing things that are working for me, but not in, if you catch on, great. If you don't, I can't sell. I'm just more a passionate person. But I've managed to become quite successful in network marketing and build a beautiful network. And before I came into Cash FX, I had built a great team of beautiful, soulful people. Like, you know, Des and Susie were in the same business and in the same community as I was in. And it was wonderful, but there was a missing piece for me. And that was the piece around prosperity, and noticing that even though a part of the pitch with network marketing is so much about prospering and financial freedom, so few people were able to duplicate my, or, you know, other successful mentors' results. And that was something that really weighed heavily on my heart. It never felt in alignment. So no matter how much I would sort of cheerlead my team and enthuse and coach, what I recognized is we all have different soul contracts in this lifetime, and we may have this yearning to create prosperity through that particular financial vehicle, but life happens, and we need, like, I sensed that there was something that just didn't align with me about the model and what I stood for. So for me, it was that my freedom is enmeshed with your freedom. And so if you're not becoming more and more financially free, because it was so much about prosperity for me, because I think it's a powerful cornerstone to all kinds of sovereignty, and we can't decompartmentalize it any longer or divorce ourselves from that conversation. And we can talk about that shortly. But ultimately, CFX came along, and it was like my dream come true. And I didn't even see it as switching businesses. I just saw it as, oh, wow, this really just fits so beautifully into the ecosystem of my values, right? And this was back in October of last year. So it feels like lifetimes ago, but it's only what, 9 or 10 months ago. And I was just so excited by what I saw, because of course, as we all know, it really doesn't matter whether you decide that you're going to share this or build a business, or if you have a week where you just want to be, you know, just have a doona week. There are so many weeks now that I just don't want to be online. I just want to, you know, cuddle in or tend to my health. And funnily enough, all of these health things have come up for me to tend to. So, you know, it's times like that where I know that anyone and everyone in CFX is being cared for. And whether it's a little or a lot, it's a frequency, it's a dynamic that we're all in together, is that together we rise. And it doesn't matter what pace you're doing it at, or whether you decide to launch your business or yourself in CFX today and you've been in the project for 10 months or more. It doesn't matter, because you can decide, you can choose at any time to activate and realize your highest destiny or your highest desires with this project. But needless to say, I fell in love with it. And before I knew it, I was like what I do, what Anna does. I go to work, I get to work, I see exactly what I have in my hands. I used to call it a Merkaba. When I first came into CFX, a Merkaba is, for me, in my words, it's like a transportive vehicle. It's like a spiritual transportation vehicle that takes us and transcends us from one paradigm to another. And I could see in my mind's eye, oh, this is it. This is a vehicle for us all to transcend what the paradigm, the old structures of, you know, slavery or system or control, to something of freedom and light and availability for all. It didn't have the same kinds of closed access to those that need it the most. It really represented my passion for human rights. And so that's been, so 10 months, I just, you know, got to work and linked arms with my leaders, people who have a voice, people who have something to share. And, you know, I'm very, very clear around how the ripple effect happens in my world and how to create and affect change. I can't do it on my own. We can't become ourselves by ourselves. And I understood that a long time ago. And so for me, extending myself, reaching out, having conversations, linking arms, collaborating, it's part of my natural narrative, because I'm humble enough to know, and we all are, that we can't achieve this, the world that we so deeply want to see on our own. And so The rest is really history, guys. We have, I have over 6,200 in my organization in 10 months of people who are just extraordinary, just blow my mind every day. Yeah. It's all about the people, you know, it's all about the people. The prosperity follows the people with passion, people with purpose, people with love in their hearts, people that want to have depth conversations. This is it. What we're doing right now is everything about the business. You know, it's funny because you can be in another CFX presentation or conversation or interview, and it will be all about the numbers and all about, you know, cracking the code on the system. And it's like, oh, just kind of doesn't do anything for me anymore. I just figure that if we just stay focused on this massive opportunity that we have at this time in history to create connection and community and speak about sovereignty as a whole and really stand for this non-negotiable conversation around financial sovereignty as a vehicle, as a way to untangle ourselves from control and system and slavery, which these are my words, they may or may not resonate, but I feel like that's what excites me, that's what enlivens me, and what lights you up, what enlivens you, what gives you that juicy feeling of like, oh, I'm awake now. That is the conversation to be in. So, you know, there may be questions tonight and today, wherever you are in the world, and that's great. And let's talk about that. But I'm going to always kind of like just sort of massage it back to what lights you up, because it's those, if you can get into those conversations with people and engage people in that, that's what's going to magnetize your 6,000, your 10,000, you know, not just people, but, you know, dollars, pounds, whatever it is that your dream is to manifest, it's going to come from that juiciness. And we are being challenged right now more than ever we're being tested. It's like, oh, to find it. Oh, see, my dog is even, yeah, she's in on it. Shadi, she's seeing some action down on the street. I might just mute myself and just see if I can give her a quick cuddle, Manda, and then we can sort of shift gears if you guys want. That's a bit about my story. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. And barking dogs and cuddling dogs is very welcomed in this space. And so, you know, the main tips I got from that were, I really love the clarity you have in your story. So when you're ready, I would love to find out about how you know, did you work on your story to get, you're just so clear when you speak about your journey and your experience. You know, how did you develop that story and make it flow so well? Because I feel that when we're in conversations with people and we want to find out what lights them up, you know, as many of us know, people don't know anything about CFX unless they've been privileged to. They'll normally buy because they trust you. And clearly you've worked hard to develop a big network. And so tell us about, you know, does that story just roll off your tongue, or did you?
It's a really great question, because no, and every time I share my story, I come at it from a very different angle. And I think what it comes down to, like, for example, I was just listening to a Charles Eisenstein conversation. Does anyone know Charles Eisenstein, who's a speaker? Oh my God, please Google him. He is just one of the lightest minds of our times, Charles Eisenstein. He does a fantastic interview, actually, with I was just Aubrey Marcus, a podcast. Now I'm just gonna copy it and see if I can just pop it in the chat, because these types of conversations are really, really valuable for us to lean into in these times. And I think, Manda, to really answer your question, it's feeling which part of your story because we've got all have such juicy stories. My God, where we could start our story. It doesn't have to be the birth story like I did. It could just be start with, being retrenched from a job, 6 weeks ago. And that's where it all began. And you can go back and forwards to keep a story interesting. But where you start is, I feel, in your heart, what is awake, what is alive for you in this moment that connects you to CFX. So in that conversation with Charles Eisenstein, I was starting to contemplate the pandemic of loneliness. The pandemic of loneliness. The real pandemic is loneliness and mental illness and separation. That is the real pandemic. I'm just sharing my opinions here and what really resonated with me from that talk. Then I can feel what part of my story can I connect to? It's sort of like transpersonal knowing, I call it, where you kind of connect with something that is in the matrix that's alive in you. You connect with that part of your story and you weave it in to our solution. See, our solution is CashFX. It's not like we go in trying to sell CashFX. We're selling ourselves. People are coming in because they love you, they trust you, they're compelled to be a part of what you're talking about. So I feel what needs to be spoken about right now is this pandemic of isolation and separation. Whereas for you, it might be something to do with this loss of sense of safety around our income, our, potential for, prosperity and freedom. And you might have a story around that, a personal story around that. Or it might be it doesn't have to be a negative. It could be a positive. It could be about your passion for people and what is it that you're a stand for. I often start with my passion for women's empowerment and often how I've just come into this absolute non-negotiable kind of prosperity conversation around that, because I've come to realize that women who are prosperous are able to make empowered decisions and choices around their life's path and purpose and how to realize that in the world. Does that make sense? So I feel like we've all got a story, rather than getting kind of a chronological story or a learned story. It's more about conversations that you're having with people. It's more going to be about staying really alive to what's alive for you and finding the bridge between that and CashFX and what CashFX brings.
Beautiful. And so once you've got this and you felt into it and what's the appropriate story to share, I think the question on everyone's lips is, first of all, next I want to ask you to go into how do you hold space to have 6,000 people, because obviously energetically you've got to hold a frequency and be magnetic, and that involves some work, some inner work, to be absolutely sure and stand your ground, because I'm sure it's not always easy having that many people and you can't know them all by name. So there's expectations on you. But before we go into that, how did you find the 6,000? Are you a hustler? Do you get out there in the old school network marketing way and write to every family member, every friend, and Kate Brown from kindergarten who you haven't seen for 35 years? Or are you an organic marketer, and because you're beautifully so magnetic, as we can see today, people, once you're clear on something, people sort of are attracted into your vortex?
Thank you. That's beautiful. I think I'm more the organic than I am a hustler. It doesn't mean that I don't hustle, and there weren't times, when I first came into CFX, I sort of, shut myself away for, a number of days to really understand the project, to really let it into my heart. That's the most important thing. I think when you really embody it and you feel like you are a co-creator with CashFX, and it's not just something that you plugged into and it's gimme, 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 but you're actually co-creating a new future, a new world with CashFX. It's a different dynamic. And then I let the magic I let the magic flow, because just that relationship and that stand. And I had this very early on. It's not like I had a relationship with Huascar or Edwin or any personal relationship with any of the leaders back then. It was very much be, do, have. It was very much just be in that embodiment of leadership. I'm with those guys. I'm on a panel with them. I actually visualized myself doing all of this amazing humanitarian work with them. I could see that I instantly realized it was a humanitarian movement. I caught on to a couple of the concepts that Huascar was speaking about and went, oh, this just really works perfectly for what's in my heart, which is I just started to study human rights and started studying more about our First Nations people here. Right when I started CFX, I started university degree, which is a crazy time to start because I wasn't really getting busy with the business. I was actually like trying to figure out how to reference correctly, you know, the AP 100 or whatever, you know, whatever it's called now, I've forgotten. But, you know, this was the thing. I was diving into these studies and I was learning more and more about why this was an important project for me. And then I let that narrative come through. And, you know, I don't know if it was so much writing lists, but I definitely use social media. So for me, it was reconnecting with those people that I have a genuine connection with, that I felt like there was a natural resonance. We were going to be able to have this kind of, it was a intimate conversation that had an element of risk, because I was still involved in a different network marketing company, and I was sort of untangling myself from rules and terms and conditions and ways of which I'm supposed to conduct myself versus this innate freedom that we have to want to connect with the people that we really want to work with. And you know, I was coming up against so much resistance. And so, you know, this leadership that you talk about, Manda, of how I hold space, it was a really uncomfortable growing up into myself, into kind of a woman, and taking responsibility for myself and my actions, and having to own things that were uncomfortable and let go of things that were uncomfortable. And it was just this birthing, you know, this whole business is, I think if you really want to go there and hold space for a big team, there needs to be a willingness to be really raw, authentic, seen, take a stand, and you know, not so much unapologetic, but the way unapologetic marries with humbleness and truth speaking and authenticity, and just wherever the chips land, that's where they land. And through that journey, I magnetized conversations and the right people to me. So part of this is about taking a stand. Like, it's almost like we're dropping the marketing speak and we're actually moving into your personal, spiritual, your soul journey. How up for it are you to be on that journey and really own it? Because it doesn't matter what age you are or your background, or whether you've done any work on yourself, or it looks like when I look around the room, you all are high initiates and this is not your first rodeo and you know what I'm talking about. But when you really do take it on, it's such a personal, it's not just a personal development, it's a collective. You're raising the vibration for the collective, and those that you're supposed to connect with will show up. And you can do that privately on the phone, and you can do that through social media and attraction, what we call attraction marketing. You can do it when you're out on the street, but it just oozes from you is this, wow, here is a person that is, you know, willing to speak for something that's really important to them and take a stand and shape the play. Like, really, it's a personal power. You can feel it.
So amazing. And I think there's so much we can all, you know, lean into from that. And the next thing is, you know, how are you managing your time? Because obviously to have a team of 6,000 people, you've had, you know, quite a few conversations. I'm assuming you're still at university as well?
No,
No.
I had to put a pause on that, because what I realized is I couldn't be the leader that I needed to be when I realized what I have in my hands, and I could the bigness of it started to reveal itself, because I started the degree at the same, I went into summer school, and it was so beautiful and potent, but I got what I needed. And rather than feeling like I had to do the whole thing, I was really satisfied with achieving what I had achieved in what I did in those 3 months, because it connected me to the soul of my message. And CFX is such a lived experience of that degree. I'm so happy to have put that on pause, because I'm just doing my head in.
It really sounds
Uni's
like
great. I studied years, and studied in my early 20s, and as you do, and I didn't realize just how, yes, it's a whole nother set of like time consuming challenge that isn't the right fit for me. I tend to go with where the wind is behind my back, where I've got that wind, and where like low hanging fruit. You ask me, how do I manage my time? I'm not a hard worker. I tend to just, no, I don't beat myself up to work a certain amount of hours. Look, to be honest, I've never worked in a business like CFX before. I've never had an experience where I've honestly worked so little and worked so much more on myself. And I'm not talking about my beliefs anymore. I'm just kind of over that stuff. I'm more about literally my physical body at the moment needs a lot of care. And for me, it's the Pilates classes, it's the physio today, it's, just adorning myself in essential oils and my personal practices, and spending time with family or watching a good show on Netflix. And, I have never really given myself this time to slow down, indulge. It's not even indulge, it's actually just such deep self-love and self-honoring. And yet, look, it's just prospering, it's just happening, it's flowing, it's growing out of that energy, it's growing. And what I show up for is the things that I'm really passionate about. It's speaking, it's connecting. When I started Cash FX, I got a coach, a high performance coach. And I loved that it was a man and he was high performance, because I'd always worked with this kind of women's empowerment coaches and deep kind of, somatic work. And this was just really practical, really good stuff. And I've been working with him for 12 weeks. And in that, he's just reminded me on so many occasions about, really just connecting with what brings me joy, being on purpose. And all that is for me is speaking. I think all of us who are passionate about Cash FX and have this just a fire in us to grow. Like, there's passive, and that's fine. I respect that. I think it's awesome. It's a great baseline. But if you want to share this with others, like you want to improve other people's lives, then you're a speaker. I'm going to challenge you to identify in a way as you are here to speak the power of word and bringing passion and energy with that. And so finding places to share yourself and your message is, it's brought me so much joy. And presenting. So I have a call that I'll be running for my team called the Power Half Hour. And we run that. It used to be 4 times a week, but now it's just twice, in addition to the giveaways, because the giveaways are not really my thing. Like, loads of slides and detail. Again, I'll do it. I'll co-host it. I love giving away packs, but I prefer to be in this conversation, and you don't get time for that in those corporate presentations, really. So for me, it's creating pathways for that. So if you resonate with this, then you'd be going, oh, I need to create spaces to be delivering in this way, to be, build it and they will come, create a little, concept that turns you on. And maybe one person shows up for the conversation or the mastermind or the presentation or the webinar, whatever you want to call it. But that builds and grows. And the more you enjoy it, that's all that counts, right? Because that has its own frequency of magnetism.
That's beautiful. So what do you think were the main things you learned from your high performance coach that you were able to apply to CFX that took you from 0 to hero?
Let me see. There's so many things. Oh my God, we covered intuition and sacrifice. I literally, I'm bringing up my notes because there were so many good things. I could just speak off the cuff, but I just want to really look at it because there were just so many powerful things. Look, I mentioned it and I think it's a great one. I think we all aspire to it, but this idea of be, do, have, it's a concept that I think we've all covered in any spiritual work that we've ever done, but it's probably worth underscoring as one of the important things. And that is, if you don't have the dollars in your bank account right now to, it's kind of like to build the belief that this works or that you're worthy, have a lot of understanding and compassion for that. But if you stay, it's okay, Baba. If you stay in that state of you've got to see it and then you will believe it, it's quite a low frequency for creating that which you most desire for. So I think what I've been able to do, I think intuitively in many ways, but that he brought more context to, is this be, do, have. So it's this beingness, feeling that abundance, really coming from that place of what would an abundant, person say to this person or do in this moment, like a little bit like love on legs. What would love do now? And acting from that place and really allowing yourself to feel that abundance or feel that freedom and feel that, speaker inside of you, coming through you. And from that place, really acting, finding those aligned actions that match that frequency, and then noticing how your world starts to mirror back to you that which you are in feeling, in connecting, and embodying to. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves, is that practice. So that would be like a huge thing. And what else can I share with you?
You mentioned about sacrifices. I think that's a really important thing. Would you like to just share a little bit about how you learned to sacrifice what you needed to get to where you are now, or what the coach taught you about sacrifices, or how you embodied that?
There's two sides, I think, to sacrifice. One that's probably worth mentioning is, this sacrificing the need to be right or to fix things. I think that's one sacrifice that I've made, is that control. And it's funny because the bigger the team gets, the less control I have. It's this sacrificing of that, which I think is something we can all do more of. Is I tend to stay in places where I feel like there's power and energy and momentum, and I've sacrificed staying stuck in places that can consume my energy. We all have like dramas and places and kind of TV and programs that we might need to sacrifice in order to experience a new reality. I think that that's probably really hot for me right now, is this concept of, we are all programmed, to some degree. We're all being programmed, whether your program is, TV, or, it's, your lineage or your education or your mentors. But I think that, there has to be, I think to elevate or go to the next level is recognizing that and surrendering or letting go of the program to be able to experience something new. And so, one of the programs I was hooked into was, needing to be approved of, needing to be liked and accepted and agreed with, and it's not just like, oh, I couldn't take a no. It was deeper than that. I was given experiences over the last 10 months of coming into Cash FX where, I felt like a whole, community were, ostracized, like removing me. I was like in exile. I was being rejected at a really deep level. And, it was like, how do I integrate, that rejection and those feelings of loneliness, and feeling like I derive my sense of wholeness and fulfillment from them approving of me and accepting me, and realizing that for me to become who I need to be, I've got to be willing to let go of that. And it's a complicated, it's complex, not complicated, it's just complex, because we're attached to friends and family and tribes and community that we've invested so much in. So there's been sacrifice and letting go of expectations, and of yeah, kind of, I suppose, being hooked in to that level of, people pleasing, approval, and all the things that hold us back. Like now's the time for us to look at this, because it's not that we look at it once and it's gone. It's a spiral, right? It's like a spiral dynamics. It's like we come back around and it's like, oh, there it is again, but I'm needing to surrender it at another level. It's like there are new levels of, having to look at our soul lessons, our soul contract lessons. And I think Cash FX brings us the perfect lessons for this lifetime. And I think we can all feel that and know what that means in your own way for you.
Well, that's so beautiful. And I feel that, and I just want to thank you for being so vulnerable and raw with us and sharing something so personal. And there's something we can learn so much from that. And then moving in is like, once again, when you're holding space for 6,000 people and you're saying that you've never worked so much, and I've got this image of you just smothering yourself in oils and getting massaged, and but how do you have boundaries? Because I know when I reached out to you the other day, and as we know, I'm not in your team, and we'd never had a message together. We just, I think, met at a festival once. You answered me within a few hours. So you must have thousands of messages every day. So how do you have the boundaries, and how do you create the space to have so much time for you and do so much healing and work on yourself, and be a mum and a wife and a dog mum, and then hold the team, because you could work 24/7, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, I'm blessed because I'm not working this business on my own. I am working it with Asher. As some of you might know, Asher Solomon's my husband, and he still has a full-time job as an IT project manager. However, he works this business just as much, if not more, than I do. And so I what do you call it, where you relinquish certain roles? What do you call it? You delegate.
Yeah.
Delegate. I like to delegate. I'm look, there's a way to do this business where you kind of feel like you're in control of everything, whereas I'm not. I might be a control freak around my kitchen, but I'm not really in this business. I've got no desire I love that I've got teams that just know what they're doing. They're taking care of themselves. And I think it's that sort of thing of not being there to answer every question, and letting people work things out for themselves, or showing them where they can find things so that they're not completely reliant on you. And I think that's one of the things that I was really clear on, because I'd sort of come from that codependent relationship, and it was quite traumatic actually to untangle from that. And so coming into this, part of the reason why I started studying straight away was because it was my way of keeping the business separate and people staying away from people. It was like, good luck, I'm studying, I'm not really available, and I've felt unavailable. And so I had to come back and find a way to be available, but also have my boundaries. And so I will say that I don't have great boundaries when it comes to messages yet. I've noticed how quick I am to respond to people. And I'm still working that out, because that's my growing edge. I'm, finding it, one of my biggest challenges is to unplug and to create time for being online and for being offline. And that's probably, to speak really honestly and openly, that's something that I'm working with. But I also have good backup systems. And I know that if I didn't have Asha, I would most likely have a VA, or like I would prefer to invest in that support so that I'm not doing all of it than doing it all on my own and playing the martyr, this kind of like the hero, like I'm doing it all, it's like you can thank me at the end. It's like, no, we're all in this together. I've found my zone of genius in this, and I encourage people to, reach out, find support. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, you've got the support of people in your team, but there's also, VAs and other ways that you can create support around you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You're so extraordinary and just
you.
alive
Like
and feeling so honoured right now. And I really also value your time. So if it's okay with you, could we just open the floor up for a few minutes for some Q&A? And I'm sure there's a couple of questions burning on people's...
I'll just say that I have a hard stop at 5 too, so that I can get a hot cup of water in preparation for my 7 o'clock call.
Let's just say 3 minutes.
Oh,
so then you get an extra few minutes to put some more oil on and massage
7. 7 is good. Go ahead.
So do you want to just stick your hand up maybe? I'll put people on gallery view if you've got a question, or even just unmute yourself and ask, and if that gets too noisy then we'll go back to raising your hands. Or just wave. You could just wave around because I can see everyone here. No questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
I was about to say, Susie.
Yeah, naturally, Susie, yes. Anna, I just have a question about that sort of control thing and what you've let go of. But how have you got your team to actually manage all the, I know Asha does a lot of it, but the money and getting people set up with their wallets and all of that? Do you have a system for that?
Yeah, Asha.
I thought so.
My system.
I mean, Asha's my backup when I need something for Australia.
But isn't that beautiful? Because we are in different lineages, but Asha's been there. I was going to say, Des says Asha's great and helpful because, like we just help each other out. Look, I will be honest. I don't onboard people and do the whole.
Right. Okay.
I don't do that. But Asha has a really great onboarding video that he can share with you.
Okay. I'll get in touch.
Yeah, one of the other things is we've created for our team a website, and it's going to have a step-by-step process for a new person onboarding. That, that's just going to make life, it's just going to streamline things. As you know, we have calls, so ways in which people can tap in. So a schedule of calls to make it easy for your team, so they know on Monday it's this call and that's the purpose, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, people know where to be at what time, something that's easy to duplicate.
Right. Thank you.
But I'll we'll just ask Ash to send you out.
I will. Yeah, I'll send you a message. Thank you.
For onboarding. Look, it's one of those things as well in the industry that we're in. Things are changing and shape shifting all the time. So, that's just part of the birthing of a new economy and being at the leading edge and disruptive, is that, it's not going to necessarily, things can become obsolete very quickly. And so it's that ability to have a posture of being ready to morph into the next thing and being agile. It's it's like a way of being, is being able to course correct. And this is what's beautiful about our business, is it's not just one thing and one thing's going to work for the next few months. We've always we've got to adopt different beliefs about ourselves and our ability, who we are, in order to be a part of this. That's we're rising to the occasion.
Absolutely.
Can I ask one question? The question, Anna, and it's wonderful listening to you, is what advice would you give to people who are leaders when they're trying to deal with, let's talk about maybe an elephant in the room, the people who don't seem to be able to build enough confidence in the company and the business to just get on with the job instead of forever fretting about what might happen or mightn't happen. Like somebody said to me, what if Bitcoin collapses? I said, well, Bitcoin will collapse, what's the problem? But I get a feeling sometimes they're not getting enough reinforcement of the positive. But I'd love to hear your view.
Yeah. Well, look, I take a lot of pride in the fact that we're building the plane while we're flying it, that we are a new company, and that I love that we're not getting everything right and perfect. And it is a moving, we're co-creating this together. And so, things like the delays in payments and, the glitches in the system, I think it's all about harvesting these things as opportunities to, and it's not even faking it. It's like, this feels really genuine for me. It's like, if if it all was perfect, or if there were no glitches, I'd be really, really worried. Like, what is going on here? I mean, it's such an authentic, and the beautiful thing is that I just leverage things like the end of month call and go, well, have a listen to our CEO, who is visible every single month, addressing all 300,000 plus members every month. Don't take my word for it. Connect in with him and you decide. I'm very, again, I had someone, even with 50K, who's just come in, dropped 50K in, and now he's like, oh, where's my money? I can't get it out. What's going on? And I don't even respond. I'm just like, there are, when I say don't respond, he has an upline that I suggested she respond. There was nothing more I could add to it, but I coached her. And I feel really, it's like, you've got a choice. You don't have to stay. No one is forcing you to stay. CashFX will fulfill their contract, whether you believe they're real, legitimate, not, you're still going to get paid. And yes, we have had delays, but here is why, and we are going to catch up. And I know it might not be on your timeline, but it is happening. And I'm really great. What are we really grateful for? The transparency, the communication from our upline. And I, like Hazel has, her sponsor is Richard Maud, and Richard is someone very dear to me as well, because I as soon as I came into this project, I was like, I've got to get to know this man. He is such an inspiration. And I hooked right in, and I, have this beautiful friendship with this man. And I just hear his voice and his tone and also his authenticity. He's not skipping over things and just fluffing things up. He's very down to earth and honest about it. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm frustrated, and yeah, it's not great, and yeah, what a bummer that this is happening at this time, and oh, that's shit and that shit. But he just keeps circling back to what, this is real, and this is authentic, and this is how it goes. And he normalizes the disruption, and he normalizes these things. And that's what I've come to mimic, or what would you call it? Like I sort of borrow his belief, and that comes through in my conversation. So listening to people like that on their webinars and being in conversations like this, and borrowing belief and borrowing a tone and a way of presencing yourself in those moments is beautiful. That's why we're here together. We can't become ourselves by ourselves. We're here to ignite, inspire, borrow words, find language that, makes us feel alive, and run with that. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you very much. You're such a boss.
You are such a great interviewer. You had such brilliant questions there. I've really loved that flow that we've brought out so much in under an hour. I just want to thank you so much and reflect your brilliance, Manda, for this, and creating and co-creating this with your beautiful soul family here. It's an honor to be here.
So honored. Let's do it again sometime, and have a wonderful next call, and keep looking after yourself. You're amazing. We love you.
Right, you all are. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Show your gratitude.
Everybody, sending it right back to you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. So much love. Bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone for joining. That was awesome. I'll send out the recording, and yeah, I'm going to look for another CFX superstar to interview soon, because I really like asking questions, as you've probably noticed.
Thanks for organising that, Manda. It was fantastic.
It was.
She mentioned we stayed with Anna is the real deal. What you see is what you get.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've got Lisa Scott lined up next, who was one of the first people that ever joined, I think, from my understanding. I don't know if that was a question or someone's just talking. And if anyone's got anyone that they'd like me to reach out to, Richard, we had one booked in, but we've just delayed it a little bit so he can do some stuff over summer. But yeah, I have fun, and it's a great way to get together, and you're all so amazing. I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you, Manda.
Love you, sister.